We should not try to have a rigid and limited mind. We should try to loosen up. We should learn how to welcome ideas and viewpoints that are against our own ideas and viewpoints. We should get used to unexpected ideas. We should allow our mind to look around and to work out of a certain frame of work. We should also change our perspective from macro to micro. We should also adopt the visual thinking because that helps us to involve more of our senses and to come towards a better idea. Hello everyone, welcome again to another video of Act the Book. I am Bakir, and in this channel I share knowledge that I learned from different self-improvement books. Today we are going to learn about 5 different strategies through which we can boost our creativity. But before that, we have to understand what are the reasons that can play as a hurdle or obstacle in front of our creativity that blocks our creativity. Human brain is just like muscle. If we work continuously on our muscle, the muscle grows. But if we stop the working, the muscle shrinks down. Similarly, on our brain, if we work on our creativity, it loosens up. But if we stop working on it, it tightens. And the more it tightens, the lesser possibilities we can come up with. There are 2 reasons that can potentially tighten up our creativity. Reason number 1, we as a human being prefer to go with the same thoughts, with the same idea and with the same way of thinking. Because if we think the same thing again and again, it brings to us consistency, it provides us familiarity, and the brain likes that. The reason number 2 is when we work very hard on a problem or an idea, the brain automatically narrows down the focus. And the further we progress in these status, the further it narrows down the focus, the fewer possibilities we can come up for our idea or for our problem. We can loosen the mind with the following 5 strategies, and we can let in more alternative possibilities to come in. And that will automatically boost our creativity. These 5 strategies are taken from the book of Robert Greene, Mastery. Strategy number 1. We have to cultivate negative capability. Robert Greene says, in order for us to cultivate negative capability, we have to allow, we have to agree, and we have to consider the viewpoints that are opposite and against ours. We also have to agree with the fact that our knowledge is limited. We don't know everything. That is why we could be wrong about a certain idea. When we allow or consider the viewpoints that are opposite to us and we understand the fact that our knowledge is limited, we allow several new ideas to come to us. We start looking from a different perspective. But Robert Greene also warns us that we should not be in this state for permanent. The main goal of this negative capability is to lead you to more possibilities. Once you have more possibilities, you will find a creative idea. But once you find your creative idea, you have to narrow down your focus to focus on that particular idea. Once you start narrowing down your focus on that particular idea, you can return back to your normal state. And you can let go the negative capability for a while. But later when you need it, you can return back to this state for more possibilities and for more ideas. The second strategy is to allow for serendipity. What is serendipity? You might be thinking. Serendipity is a state of mind or a moment when you allow unexpected ideas to enter your mind. When we are in this moment, we meet random set of ideas that we were not expecting before. And when these random ideas enter our mind, it triggers a fertile connection between all these ideas. And our brain also gets excited when it sees that all these new ideas entering the brain. We have to welcome these unexpected ideas regardless of how irrational they might be and regardless of how it fits within the limited framework of our previous work. When these random external stimuli enters our brain, it creates an association among all of this that we cannot come up on our own. And Robert Greene also says that our brain is in constant search of similarities, differences, relationships, and the pattern between all of these possible ideas that the brain is processing at a certain time. We have to use this in our advantage, because when we, in serendipity, when we allow all these unexpected ideas to enter our brain, the brain start processing, start looking for similarities, differences, and relationship between all these ideas, and at the end it brings us to a creative idea that we cannot reach to that without the presence of serendipity. Strategy number 3 is alternate the mind through the current. The current here, in this sense, it means that it is the dialogue between the reality and our thoughts. When we observe something, it strikes our curiosity, and we automatically come up with several possible explanations for that observation. And when we look at those possible explanations, we look at them differently, and we go do some experiments to verify these speculations. And these experiments could be in terms of research, could be in terms of reading a book, could be in terms of talking to experts. And weeks and months later on, when we come and visit these explanations again, we find more hidden realities. And when we cycle between speculation, observation, and experimentation, we go deeper and deeper into reality. If we progress further and we go deep enough into this process, we come up with ideas that are beyond our senses. But without the understanding of the current, many people try to short circuit this. When they observe something, they quickly rush towards speculation, and they never give the time for the brain to entertain several possible explanations. This is why when we observe something, we have to give the time for us to go deeper and deeper into reality, and we have to perform several experimentation. We have to do more research to learn more about the hidden realities. Strategy number 4, alter your perspective. When we look at an event, we ignore the details and we look for the patterns that connects somehow with our past expectations or past experiences. But creative people, when they look at an event, they look from different angles. They notice something that we normally miss because they look from several angles, but we are looking straight from one perspective. There are 4 different ways that we can alter our perspective. Number 1, normally we focus on what and we ignore the how of a problem. Robert Greene says that when we come across a problem, we should focus more on how the parts of a problem relates to the bigger problem. For example, in companies, when top executives, they look for a problem, they try to rush towards what caused the problem, to come up with something that they were unconsciously expecting for that reason. But instead, if those top executives, they focus on how the problem was caused, what were the elements, how the information flows in the company, what are the procedures, and if the top executives look more deeper, they can come with a better conclusion. Second method of altering your perspective. It is normally we rush towards generalities and we ignore the details. When we form an opinion, we try to confirm that opinion with our past experiences. We have to fight this in order for us to change our perspective. And we can fight this by shifting our focus from macro to micro, towards more details. When we fight these generalities, we get closer towards reality. However, we should not get lost in these details. We should not lose the sight of how these details can be connected with the bigger idea, with the main idea. Because if you're lost in these details, it will be just another side of the same disease. Method number 3. We try to confirm paradigms and ignore their anomalies. Paradigms are the accepted ways of explaining a reality. When we look at a paradigm, we try to confirm the paradigm with our past experiences, and we try to ignore the anomalies. But in reality, anomalies are the richest in information, and anomalies try to find the problems, the flaws in our paradigm that we cannot see it otherwise. This is the reason that it is very important for us to also consider the anomalies, to not rely only on paradigms. Method number 4. Fixating on what is present and ignoring what is absent. We normally try to look for what is already there and try to make it better. And we never think of what is missing, what is the gap, and how we can fill the gap. For example, in business, everyone is trying to look for the business that already exists, or for business idea that they try to make it better and cheaper and restart the same business. But they never try to look for what is missing and how they can fill the gap. Looking for filling the gap, it requires a lot of thinking, and it's very difficult to conceptualize. But once we come across an idea, or once we find the answer or solution for a missing part of a problem, the reward will be immense. These are the 4 different methods that we can change and alter our perspective. Strategy number 5. We have to revert more towards the primal form of intelligence, which is visual thinking. With the evolution of human being and invention of language, we lost our connection with our senses and our visual thinking. Normally, if there is no word to explain a concept, we try not to think of that concept. If we look back in the history of humankind, the greatest thinkers, they all used visual thinking. For example, Einstein once wrote, "The words of the language, as they are written or spoken, do not seem to play any role in my mechanism of thought. The physical entities which seem to serve as elements in thought are certain signs in more or less clear images which can be voluntarily reproduced and combined." When we use visual thinking, we enter a state of synesthesia. In the state of synesthesia, one simulation tries to provoke another simulation. For example, if we hear a sound of something, we try to think of a color that relates to that sound. This is why it is very important for us to use more visual thinking rather than the way that we think normally. If we try to focus on our senses, we can find more connection through different senses. In short, these 5 strategies through which we can boost our creativity are: we should not try to have a rigid and limited mind. We should try to loosen up. We should learn how to welcome ideas and viewpoints that are against our own ideas and viewpoints. We should get used to unexpected ideas. We should allow our mind to look around and to work out of a certain frame of work. We should also change our perspective from macro to micro. We should also adopt the visual thinking because that helps us to involve more of our senses and to come towards a better idea. With that said, we have reached the end of this video. If you have any other creative strategies that you apply for being more creative, and that is out of all these 5 strategies that we just mentioned, please feel free to mention them and share them below in the comment section. If you have any question or if you have any feedback, you can also share them in the comment. Your comments mean a lot to me. But before you go, let me share that in the next video I'm going to talk about emotional pitfalls, because in this video I've shared the strategies that you can be more creative. When you are creative and you are in a state of hyper creativity or active creativity, there are emotional pitfalls that you can potentially fall into. So if you like this video, make sure that you turn on the notification bell for the next video, because I'm sure that you will also like and enjoy the next video as well. Thank you so much again. Until the next week, next video, bye bye, stay safe and stay healthy.